In Wilder, Kentucky, sits a honky-tonk with a reputation that precedes it. For decades, Bobby Mackey's has been called the most haunted nightclub in America, a place rumored to sit directly on top of a portal to hell. The foundational legend dates back to the 1850s, when the building reportedly served as a slaughterhouse. According to local lore, after the meatpacking stopped, satanic cults used the abandoned basement well to drain animal blood during rituals. Then there is Pearl Bryan. The story claims that in 1896, this pregnant young woman was decapitated, and her severed head was used in a dark ritual before being thrown down that same basement well. The list of spirits grew to include Johanna, a dancer who supposedly poisoned herself, and Carl Lawson, a caretaker who claimed to be the victim of a demonic possession that required a 6-hour exorcism. These stories were later repackaged by Paranormal reality television. By treating local whispers as documented events, these shows presented the demons and the exorcisms to a national audience as accepted history. But a different story emerges when you set aside the television cameras and cross-reference these claims with the actual historical record. The public archives suggest that this legendary reputation is actually built on a foundation of historical fictions. To understand why these stories were constructed, we have to strip away the hauntings and examine the documented history of 44 Licking Pike. First, the slaughterhouse. Property maps and local records show the building never processed meat. It was actually built as a whiskey distillery. The infamous well in the basement wasn't for rituals. It was an industrial pump system used to draw water from the Licking River to produce bourbon. The murder of Pearl Bryan was a real tragedy, but it had no connection to a satanic cult or a nightclub. She was a 22-year-old from Indiana who died during a botched abortion attempt. 2 dental students had slipped cocaine into her drink and murdered her when the procedure went wrong. This crime occurred miles away from Bobby Mackey's. Detectives at the time theorized her head was never thrown into a well. It was likely burned in the furnace of the dental college where her killers were students. The 2 students, Jackson and Walling, were caught, convicted, and hanged at the Newport courthouse, marking the end of the documented case. A horrific crime from a completely different location was simply adapted decades later to give the honky-tonk a darker backstory. The ghost of Johanna is equally difficult to find in the archives. There is no historical record of a mobster's daughter dancing at the club, much less taking her own life there. Carl Lawson did live in an apartment above the bar, but his colleagues noted he struggled with psychological issues, often telling ghost stories that blurred the line between fact and imagination. Lawson's accounts were eventually codified in the book Hell's Gate, which turned his personal claims into a foundational part of the building's lore. Before it was a country bar, the building did have a history of violence, but it was tied to the mob. In the 1930s, it was a casino and speakeasy called the Latin Quarter. During the organized crime era, illegal gambling and real murders took place on the property, creating a dark reputation that the town never forgot. Local memories of that mob violence were eventually misinterpreted and repackaged into the stories of satanic cults that became popular in the 1980s. Bobby Mackey bought the bar in 1978 as a country music singer who didn't believe in the supernatural. But as the rumors brought in crowds, he leaned into the marketing, famously telling visitors to come for the ghosts, stay for the music. This data illustrates how the legend provided financial protection. While interest in country music bars fluctuated, the revenue from paranormal tourism remained remarkably consistent. For nearly 50 years, the haunted reputation was the primary reason the business survived through changing musical trends. The end came in 2024. The portal to hell was eventually taken down not by an exorcist, but by the mundane reality of a cracked foundation and leaky pipes. The physical building is gone, but the story of Bobby Mackey's remains a case study in how folklore is constructed. It shows that when reality is mundane or grim, the legend is often what survives.